dear learners and viewers, a very warm welcome to this session. Today, we will be discussing profiling victims or survivors of human trafficking. So, in the first part, we have discussed that you cannot put labels to the victims of human trafficking. You don't know who is a victim, who is not a victim. You cannot say that, okay, you are vulnerable to the situation, you may be trafficked, or somebody may traffic you, so let me put a label to you, or you as a family cannot just put a tag here that yes, we are the people who are vulnerable to human trafficking. Lot of vulnerable people do not even know what is human trafficking. So putting a label or not putting a label is out of question for Indian population who are illiterate, who do not know about their constitutional rights, their legal rights, their rights of dignity and worth, and do not understand the dimensions of human trafficking. For them, it may be a means of sustenance. For them, it can be a reason for work. In case of no work, you do not have choices. For any kind of exploitation to take place, if you have lot of supply of a workforce and the demand is less, then the dimensions of economics work there, and you will not be able to define your working conditions and discuss your working conditions. It may be as per the labor laws of the country, it may be a violation of the labor laws of the country, but you do not have the say. You are not somebody who will be heard while taking decisions about you. So, human trafficking for sexual exploitation. So, if trafficking is for sexual exploitation, how can we identify these people? How can we say that these are the people who can be trafficked for sexual exploitation? First thing is their vulnerability. Any person who is vulnerable can be exploited, can be trafficked for any of the reasons, and one reason can be for sexual exploitation. Sexual exploitation can happen for a male or for a female. So it is not that only the girls are exploited, or only the males are exploited, or only the children are exploited. Exploitation can be of any age. The family to which you belong, that can be also a vulnerability factor. If you do not have means of sustenance in your family, then somebody can traffic you for sexual exploitation. If your family members are illiterate, are ignorant about the mindset of the trafficker, then they will not be able to make reasoned choices of sending you with that trafficker, with that customer, so-called customer, because these are the violators of law. So somebody in your family may send you for some work, and you may be exploited sexually. If you are born at some locations of India, in the brothel houses or at places where sexual exploitation takes place, then you are vulnerable. I may desire to become X, but I do not have the potential and means of becoming X. So, there is a practical mismatch. I desire to earn a lakh of rupees or to stay in a different part of the globe. If I am not able to work to my potential, or if I have no training, no education, no infrastructure, then how do I attain that level? So I may desire to become an actor, actresses, TV star, a YouTuber, or somebody who is very famous on the online platform. But if I lack training, I lack opportunity, I go in wrong hands, then I may be sexually exploited. We have found cases where the children make videos and post it, and the videos are being tampered and exploited in pornographic sites. So technological hazards have to be addressed. With a population like India, to educate everybody about the cybercrime and to provide them the basic foundation of cybercrime, it becomes very difficult when people are illiterate. People do not have the resources to access quality education. So desire and practicality can be two different things. If there is a mismatch between the desire and practicality, then a person may be trafficked for sexual exploitation. So one has to be very careful. I fight with my family members, out of anger I just leave my house. We have seen lot of cases where children run away from the family because they have been scolded by the family members. So they become very vulnerable. Even we have cases where ladies also and some male happen to leave the family and go some places where they want to live alone. So if you do not tell the whereabouts to your family members, you may be vulnerable for sexual exploitation. Because in this route of staying alone, being independent, taking your own decisions, living an independent life, a trafficker may trap you and put you for sexual exploitation. False marriage. We have seen that from one country to another country, girls moved in the name of false marriage. Then we have disturbed family life, where we have instances where the family members are not happy with each other. So in that case, a child, a lady, a male becomes vulnerable and he may be trafficked for sexual exploitation. Your ignorance can also lead you to these places of trafficking. We have the entire world, which is very fascinating. For me as a lady, for you as a child, for you as an adult, lot of things can be very fascinating. So if the things are very fascinating to all of us, and we do not draw our boundaries or understand our limitations or our potentials, then the fascinating world can lead us to a place where we can be sexually exploited. I post my pictures on the public platform. That picture can be seen by all. Then I post my videos that can be seen by all. On the online gaming site, I make a lot of friends. So social networking sites, social platforms where in cyber world you have a lot of friends. In reality, you have only one or two people to talk to. But in the cyber world, you get 20, 15, 30, thousands of followers. You are fascinated by that number. You are fascinated by, being popular. So in the name of popularity, in the name of being popular, Sometimes the trafficker can trap you and then you are in this sex trade. Lack of interaction between the family members, between the children, between the spouse can also take you to a place where you can be trafficked for sexual exploitation. Lack of capacity to take decisions. I just said, if I am vulnerable, I will not be able to decide good and bad. If I am illiterate, if I am ignorant about certain things, I will not be able to make reasoned choices. If I sign on a paper and that paper is a violation of my human rights, my legal rights, then is that thing valid? No. But still I abide each and every word of that paper because I have been told by the trafficker that if you do not follow this document, then you will face consequences or your family members will face consequences. So I rely and abide by a paper which is illegal. Choices not made proper. Very important concept. If I am not able to make a reasoned choice of sending my daughter to a place, of sending my son to a place, of sending my wife to a place, of taking an employment for myself, or if the wife is not able to take decisions for herself, if the children are not able to take decisions for themselves, then they may be trafficked for sexual exploitation. Lot of abuse also happen at homes. We have cases that in cases of sexual abuse of children, we have POSCO Act. Still we find that the child is safest at home and a child is also vulnerable at his or her home. Vulnerable in the hands of the family members, vulnerable in the hands of the relatives and friends. So if I do not talk to my family members, if we do not have that trust or that bondage between the members, then that may result in sexual abuse. And a child who has been abused sexually at a young age, sometimes it is seen that these children are trafficked in sexual exploitation. Sex tourism is also an employment option. You can have a person for a week, you can have a person for 2 days, for international business tour, for domestic business tours. So we have the entire sex tourism industry working in India and abroad throughout the globe. So if we are not able to understand how this works, why this works, and how can I prevent myself from being used in this sex tourism, then I may be lured, I may be forced, I may be coerced, I may be vulnerable to this kind of employment. Poverty and hunger. If you are hungry, then you cannot preach. Similarly, you cannot differentiate between good and bad if your family members are dying out of hunger in front of you. So you do not know what are the schemes by the government of India for your development. Even if you know the schemes, you do not get the benefit of those schemes, then you are vulnerable. So if poverty and hunger club together, then it is very difficult to take a reasoned decision. Non-availability of resources, I just discussed in few of my sessions, that somebody has 24 hours light, somebody is still waiting for the bulb to glow. So non-availability of drinking water, non-availability of oxygen, non-availability of clothing, of shelter, of having a safe place for everybody can be a reason for trafficking for sex trade. Internet is a boom, technology is a boom, and technology, if not used properly, can also be disastrous. So, if I am not trained properly to use technology, then we can find cases of technology abuse, of cyber crimes. So, I should be trained of how to use technology, when to use technology, and when not to use technology. Use of mobile phones in the bedrooms and in the washrooms. We find lot of cases, where even the ladies, the males, take their phones to the washroom. Utilization of time. So, optimum use or utilization of time sometimes leads to another disaster. So, in the name of saving time, do not carry your mobile phones and electronic devices in the washrooms and bedrooms. Then there are also cases where you do not have job. We have an unemployment data. We have so many people registering for employment. We have seen cases, where we find that people are working on contractual jobs, people who are working as daily wages. So, people who are not sure whether their job is going to retain for 2 months, 3 months or 6 months will not be able to take a reasoned decision. Lack of education. And when I talk about education, I talk about quality education at the grassroots. So, if you do not have quality educations in villages and district, when I talk about quality education, it has to be holistic education. It cannot be an education which, does not gives you a platform to think and make choices. So, education has to be something which changes you into a well human being. So, it gives you information, it makes you a good human being. Where you do not have infrastructure at the level of village and district, where people travel for 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 200 kilometers to reach a university, to reach a college or to reach a school, then the children become vulnerable, because during that movement you are vulnerable. If somebody is trapping you, then you are vulnerable. So, if I do not have my school near to my place, then I may be vulnerable. The kind of education, the kind of infrastructure that is needed for the school to function, if that is not available at all levels, when I say all levels, it includes the village level, the district level, the state level, the national level and the international level. So, are we able to generate employment, skill-based education, or we are not able to generate skill-based education? The government of India and the state governments have lot of programs for skill-based education system. They have lot of programs for vocational training, but they have to be implemented properly by the local representatives at the grassroots level. Authorities at the local level have to ensure that the programs and schemes of the government reach the people of India. And the people of India are able to take the benefit out of these schemes. If we are able to reach out to the unreached, which is the motto of IGNOU, then we will be able to address this education issue. Mindset and customs, sometimes the mindset is such that, or the custom is such that it allows you to work as a Devadasi, allows you to lead a life at a brothel space. So the mindset also needs to change. You cannot say that I belong to a particular caste or to a particular region or to a particular location, so I should work as a sex worker. So the mindset needs to be changed. We need to reform in terms of our thinking. Unemployment and deprivation, it is linked. I am unemployed, so I do not have resources. If I do not have resources, then I will not be able to provide the basic facilities to my family members. If I am not able to provide the basic facilities to my family members and somebody lures or somebody attracts me to a better life, then I may have no choice than to go for that. Psychology and acceptability as per the community to which you are born is very important. So I may be born in a particular community, but I should not be forced to take a profession. If I am forced to take a profession, then that is a violation of my human rights and my legal rights. Crime. So crime needs to be handled strictly, whether done at any stage. Dowry and poverty equations, we have Dowry Prohibition Act, so you cannot take dowry, you cannot give dowry. But still we find cases where people demand dowry and people give dowry. So if you are poor and you are not able to give dowry when you get your daughter married, then somebody comes up with a proposal of giving your daughter for, free of cost to a person, and you trust that person because you think that yes, that person is not asking anything from me. So it is a free marriage. So if the groom or the groom's parents are not asking anything, then you just want that the girl should be married. Without knowing the whereabouts of the family members, without checking the credentials of the family, you give your daughter in marriage. That may be a false marriage. After marriage also, that girl may be forced in prostitution or may be sold by these traffickers for profit making. So dowry and poverty equations have to be handled and seen properly. Number of girl children in the family. If you have more children and the number of girl child is more in the family, then they are vulnerable and there is a possibility that a trafficker comes with a proposal of getting them educated, giving them a good life, getting a groom for them, sending them to work, and by all these things, in actual, he is taking your daughter for sexual exploitation. So do check the credibility, the papers, the whereabouts of people whom you offer your children for marriage. Or if your child wants to go for work somewhere, do check the documents properly, because in the name of massage parlor, in the name of domestic helpers, in the name of different professions, sometimes males and females both are sexually abused. And then we have the entire gambit of online pornographic sites. There are a lot of safety issues related to children. We have seen instances where children are not safe at home and in the schools or in the colleges. So they are vulnerable and may be pushed into prostitution. when you marry a child at the age where the child cannot take a decision about himself or herself, then in the name of child marriages in communities, you are depriving that child of his right to development, of his right to grow, right to bloom. You are not taking the decision in the best interest of the child. So, child marriages where we have customs where children are given in marriages, because it is very difficult for the family to keep them safe till the age of 18 years. So, they just want that they should marry at the low age, and then the spouse will take care of the girl. This custom needs to be broken and dealt strictly by the law, and the law enforcement officers should ensure that cases of child marriages should be reported immediately. The community people should come forward and report these cases and prevent from these marriages being happening. Lack of implementation of the law. We find that there are a lot of implementation issues. We have very good laws in India, but if they are not implemented at the grassroots level, if people are not aware about their legal rights, then the laws are violated and the rights are violated. We have low rate of conviction because we do not have witnesses, we do not have evidences, we do not have a system where we are able to talk about victim and witness protection in a greater detail. So, in cases of low rate of conviction, the traffickers think that they will not be able to come before the law and will never be punished or prosecuted or convicted by the law. The concept of customer. I go to the massage parlor for exploiting a person and I am a customer. I go to a mandi or a hut and purchase or sell a human being. I go to these pornographic sites and download the videos and watch these videos or films. I go to my factory and employ people without thinking about the violation of the labor laws, without thinking that I am violating their basic dignity rights. But I am a customer. I am employing somebody to work for my home and I just pay that person a meager amount which will be able to sustain that person. I do not respect his dignity and worth and I violate the laws, but still I am the customer. I have kept that person. I may employ a child or any adult in hazardous employment. I may not follow the safety standards. I do not follow the Supreme Court and High Court's judgments, but still I am a customer. So, this acceptability theory of the concept of customer, there is a demand for organ, there is a supply of organ, there is a demand for sex, there is supply of sex, there is a demand for cheap labor, there is supply of cheap labor. So, out of my vulnerability, out of my ignorance, out of my poverty, unemployment, you are trying to exploit me. So, you are not a customer but a violator of law. Victims of sex crimes, somebody who has suffered any kind of sex crime may be pushed into prostitution. Somebody who has not been heard, who has no voice, even if he speaks up or she speaks up, is not heard by his own family members, by his or her own community people, is a vulnerable person. Vulnerability of people who work for sustaining the family. So I have my entire family and I have to earn to sustain that family. So I may be pushed into sexual exploitation. Then somebody needs medical care in my family. The medical expenditure has to go on irrespective of whether I am earning or not, because if I want that person to survive, I have to pay the medical expenditure. So I have no choice than to work without thinking about my choices. Sex crimes in the family by relatives and friends also have a greater impact on the person, and that person may be forced into trafficking for sex. I may be vulnerable using public spaces like toilets, restaurants, hotel room, changing room. So if you use my vulnerability, my ignorance on the pornographic sites or anywhere else, and you start blackmailing or exploiting me, then I am vulnerable. Sale and purchase of pornography, we have seen that somebody is purchasing, somebody is selling, so there is a demand and supply for pornography. This needs to be addressed, and we as citizens of India should pledge that we will neither see pornography, and if somebody known is seeing pornography, will tell them that stop seeing these sites. Online availability of data is very rare. People are not numbered, so there is no data, so can easily be exploited for sex. Victims of cybercrime, out of their reputation, their family pressure and other constraints, are forced into sex trafficking. Then honor killing also happens, and we have seen instances where the family members in the name of reputation kill the member because of family reputation. Human trafficking for drugs. So drugs are available in schools and colleges, drugs are available in society. We have a lot of dreams to fulfill, but we do not know how to go about it. So if we have dreams but we are not working out practically how to realize or fulfill our dreams, then I may be forced into drugs. Non-availability of resources. I am not educated, I do not have job, so I am free the entire day. So somebody can lure me, somebody can just put me in drugs. The laws related to drugs are not implemented properly in India, so non-implementation of the laws also leads to more and more cases of drug trafficking. When you are not able to survive, when your family is not able to survive, then you do not make reasoned choices, and if somebody gives you an option of job, then you do not think whether that is legal or illegal, and you just do that thing for sustaining your family members. While taking reasoned decision, sometimes I am so vulnerable that I cannot make a reasoned choice. I am ignorant. Even if I know, I cannot say no because I need money. I need some kind of financial security for my family to live. Quality education is not there, poverty and unemployment is also there. So I am not able to take reasoned decision, and I am forced in drugs. Drugs for no voice. You must have seen then when children or are kidnapped or people are abducted and kept at these places for sexual abuse, for violence, or for any kind of illegal activity, then they are drugged. Even the beggars, small children, are drugged on the streets to get money in beggary. So if you drug me, I will not be able to raise my voice. I will be unconscious. So you will make use of my vulnerability. Violence and abuse will not be heard if I am drugged. So I am not in my senses, you can do anything to me. Taking drugs, first you put or you force me to take drugs, and then I develop a habit of having drugs. So I forget my pain and trauma and the torture which I have undergone during the entire process, and I take drugs to avoid thinking about that. Drugs for doing illegal activities. Then human trafficking for crime. So how will you identify people who have been trafficked to do a particular crime? We have children in conflict with law, and these are the children who have been forced to do something which is illegal. And a very good example of trafficking for illegal offenses, beggary. Carrying or spying information or spying somebody in the disturbed areas. So we have groups who use children and people as information carriers. Even we have the concept of child soldiers in a lot of parts of the country and even in the globe. Child marriages. So something which is not allowed by the law of the land, still I want to give my daughter in marriage, so that is a crime. But as I think that I am so vulnerable that I cannot take care of my daughter or my son, and I do not know the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act provisions wherein I can get help from the agencies, but I give my daughter in marriage. Trafficking for begar. You work for so long hours and you are never paid because you are trying to pay off the loan, or a pending installment of your ancestor and you are working for years and for generations. Human trafficking for medical purposes. Somebody is needing the organ, somebody has to donate the organ out of his or her vulnerability. We do not know the organ transplantation law. The law related to organ transplantation, if not implemented properly, if the committee is not taking a reasoned decision about the authenticity of the donor, then we have poor rate of conviction of cases, where we find trafficking for organ trade. Then we do not know, if I give my organ, I do not know what will happen to me after that. Post-operative care needs to be done for both the patients, somebody who has accepted your organ and somebody who is a donor of that organ. But out of my vulnerability, out of my poverty, my ignorance, I do not know about the ill effects of organ donation, and I am not able to take post-operative care. Then sometimes I may not survive. Even if I survive, I may suffer from long ailment. Poverty and unemployment also force a person to give his or her organ. We have lot of daily needs to be met in a family to sustain. If I am the head of the family and I have to take care of my family members, sometimes I need to give my blood because I do not earn. There is lack of awareness about programs and schemes of the government of India at various levels. Grassroots also, we do not have the schemes working properly because people are ignorant and sometimes people are deprived of these schemes at the grassroots level. So I become vulnerable and somebody will make use of my vulnerability and take my organs. In cases where you have online friends, do be very careful because somebody calls X goes to meet somebody and in a process the dead body is found mutated, all the organs being removed by the traffickers. So try to find friends near you and do not go for online friends. Surrogacy out of choice, out of my poverty, out of my ignorance, out of my vulnerability, I agree for surrogacy. When blood donation is a means for sustenance, then human trafficking for entertainment. Somebody's vulnerability, somebody's blood is a sport activity or an entertainment for me. Pleasure out of pain. I see the blood and I get thrilled. There are traditions and customs where you use small babies, you tie them with camels, you tie them with bulls, and then the sports activity is carried on. Somebody is fighting with a bull, somebody is fighting with a tiger. So all this is entertaining you, something which is a sports event for you. But out of a person's vulnerability, you cannot be entertained by seeing the blood of a person. So if you are seeing the blood of a person and getting pleasure out of it, then there is some mental sickness and you need a psychological help. That should not be allowed in any case in the name of entertainment and sports. So we have a law in India, we have global laws, prohibiting and punishing these sport events. But still we find places where these events are carried on, and then we have places where it is a matter of pride if you host these events. So this needs to be taken care of. Any vulnerable person who is going for these events out of his vulnerability should be taken care of by the respective government, because human life cannot be for somebody's entertainment. So in the end, I would just like to thank you all for listening this session, and I would say that be safe, stay blessed, and be aware about your surroundings. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.